Did you know that the drain your battery before charging habit you have been following for 20 years was not actually made up by someone in Silicon Valley? It actually comes from a NASA satellite orbiting the Earth in the 1960s. This is not a joke. When you understand the true story behind that habit, you will look at the laptop sitting on your desk in a completely different way. Welcome to Mysteries of Simple Things, the channel where everyday secrets are uncovered and explained. Let's go back in time for a moment. In the 1960s, NASA was operating satellites in orbit. Those satellites used nickel-cadmium batteries, which were the most basic battery technology available at the time. With every orbit around the Earth, the satellite would drain the battery to a specific fixed level, day after day, month after month. The engineers noticed something strange. Those batteries began to refuse to provide power past the point where they were regularly drained. It was as if they remembered the stopping point. This phenomenon was named the memory effect. It was real and based on clear scientific evidence. Cadmium crystals formed inside the battery, narrowing the surface of the electrode and causing the battery to gradually lose its ability to fully discharge. The problem is that when lithium-ion batteries arrived and completely replaced that old technology, nobody told you that the drain it before you charge it rule had expired. It was passed down from person to person like an obvious truth. Fathers told their children, bosses told their employees, friends told friends. An entire generation of laptop users from the 90s until now kept doing it with good intentions, but they were completely wrong. Before we dive into how your laptop battery actually works, there is a man you need to know. His name is John Goodenough. In 1980, while working at an inorganic chemistry lab in Oxford, he replaced titanium sulfide in the battery's cathode with lithium cobalt oxide. That decision created the foundation for every lithium-ion battery in the world today. He was 57 years old at the time. He wasn't a 25-year-old genius student or a startup raising millions of dollars. He was a 57-year-old scientist in a quiet lab, silently changing the world. It wasn't until 2019, which was 39 years later, that he received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. He was 97 then, making him the oldest person in history to receive a Nobel Prize. He passed away in 2023 at the age of 100. The MacBook you are using, the iPhone in your pocket, and the 2.8 billion devices active worldwide all run on the foundation created by an old man in Oxford nearly half a century ago who was almost forgotten during all that time. So how is the lithium-ion battery that Goodenough left us different from NASA's old batteries? The short answer is that it has no memory. No crystals form to remember a discharge threshold, but it has a different enemy that is more subtle and less noticed, and that is why this story still matters to you today. Inside every lithium-ion battery is a super thin layer called SEI, or solid electrolyte interface. Think of it like a protective film that forms during the first few charges, similar to the enamel protecting your teeth. At first, it is beneficial because it prevents the electrolyte from continuing to break down. But over time, under the influence of high heat and constant voltage stress, this layer thickens. The thicker it gets, the harder it is for lithium ions to move back and forth. Think of it like plaque in an artery. It isn't sudden or loud, but it silently builds up, until one day you realize your battery only lasts for 2 hours instead of 8. What makes the SEI layer thicken the fastest? It is not keeping your charger plugged in. It is high heat. A study published in the journal Nature found that a difference of just 3 degrees Celsius inside a battery cell can speed up degradation by 300%. At 45 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature of a laptop running a heavy game, the battery loses twice as much capacity after 200 charge cycles compared to a laptop running at 25 degrees Celsius. Here is what most people never hear. The real enemy of your laptop battery is not the charger plugged into the wall. It is the graphics chip running Call of Duty at 90 degrees Celsius. A gaming laptop running a game for 4 hours without being plugged in causes 100 times more damage to the battery than an office laptop plugged in all day. This is not an estimate. These are measured figures. Yet for all these years, we have been worried about unplugging the charger to protect the battery while the GPU was scorching it from the inside. What about keeping it plugged in all the time? Let's be direct, because this is what people really want to know after reading all the arguments online. Not every laptop is perfect. Some people really do experience swollen batteries after long-term charging, and that is a reality that must be acknowledged. But in most of those cases, the cause is not charging too much. It is poor heat management, blocked vents, or using the laptop on a mattress, which traps heat inside the machine. With modern laptops that are designed correctly, there is something called a BMS, or battery management system, working silently every second you use the machine. When the battery reaches 100%, the BMS cuts the charging circuit immediately. No more power flows into the battery. The laptop switches to running directly from the power adapter, and the battery simply sits there and rests. Only when the battery drops to about 95 to 97% does the system charge it a little bit and then stop again. It repeats this over and over. This system is exactly like how a Toyota Prius hybrid manages its battery. It never lets it go completely empty and never lets it stay overfilled. It always keeps it in the optimal zone. If you want even more active control, the big manufacturers have already built it for you. Apple has had battery health management since macOS 10, 15.5 in 2020. This system learns your charging habits, automatically limits the charge level, and tracks what they call the chemical age of the battery rather than just time. Dell Power Manager allows you to manually limit the maximum charge to 80%. Lenovo Vantage has a mode that learns your habits. If you often leave your laptop on a desk plugged in, it automatically adjusts to keep the battery around 60 to 80% instead of pushing it to 100%. Why is 80% so important? This is data that will make you read twice. According to Battery University, a lithium-ion battery that goes through 100% cycles from full to empty only survives for about 300 cycles before the capacity drops below an acceptable level. 300 cycles, if you drain it every day, is less than a year. But if you only use 20% each time, like a laptop sitting on a desk where the battery only fluctuates a few percentage points, that number jumps to 6,000 cycles. That is more than 16 years. It is the same battery, but the different usage creates a 20-fold difference in lifespan. That is why your coworker's laptop that has been plugged in for 4 years still works great, while your battery wears out after 18 months because you unplug and replug it every day. It isn't luck. It is physics. The story doesn't end there. In March 2024, a study in Advanced Material Sciences described a brand new charging technology called pulse charging. This involves charging in intermittent pulses instead of a continuous current. Between each pulse of electricity, the battery gets to breathe. The lithium ions redistribute more evenly, the SEI layer forms more slowly, and micro cracks in the electrodes are significantly reduced. The result goes from about 500 cycles with standard charging to over 1,000 cycles with pulse charging. A 5-year laptop could last for 10 years. This technology isn't in commercial products today, but it is coming. So what do you need to do today? It isn't much, and it isn't complicated. Keep your laptop on a hard, flat surface with good airflow. Never put it on a mattress or your lap when doing heavy tasks. Go into your settings for Apple, Dell, or Lenovo, and turn on the 80% charge limit if you usually work while plugged in. Once every 2 weeks, let the battery drop to about 30 or 40% before charging it again. This isn't for chemical balance like people used to say, but it helps the BMS system accurately read the true remaining battery level. The next time someone tells you that you must drain the battery before charging, you can smile and tell them about the NASA satellites from 60 years ago, the 57-year-old man from Oxford who changed the world whose name no one remembers, and the SEI layer that is quietly thickening inside their battery every day. The most complex technology is sometimes hidden right inside the simplest objects you touch every morning. Understanding it even just a little bit is enough for you to use it better, longer, and smarter than any habit you learned 20 years ago.